The Reverend Louis M. Brehaut of Bangor, former United States Navy chaplain, will now read the 110 names in the Book of Honor. The audience stands.
The following are the Bangor men who died in the services in World War II. Leonard Victor Ashworth, Jr. J. Edgar O'Coin. Donald Holman Eyre. Joseph J. Babane, Jr. Donald Llewellyn Barker. Charles Albert Bean. Bernard Joseph Bertels, Jr. Philip James Black. Edgar Vincent Blake. Lawrence R. Blethen. Wilbur Elmore Broad. Harold Breen. John N. Budway. William G. Burgess, Jr. Ernest A. Burke. Kenneth R. Burns. James Daniel Cassidy, Jr. Theodore J. Chase. Edward Francis Chisholm. Ralph Lewis Clapp. John Leslie Coffin, Jr. Horace Nathan Comstock. Merle Lawrence Condon. John Francis Corey. Lauren L. Kowales. Walter L. Crawford, Sr. Dennis T. Cullinan, Jr. Ralph Lindley Cunningham, Jr. John Francis Curran. Bernard J. Sear. Harry V. Doggett, Jr. Claire Frederick Dunphy. Alonzo Dyer. Paul H. Eames, Jr. Harold G. Eaton. James Alton Falkingham. Joseph Henry Ferguson. Charles Albert Fessenden. Ferd Charles Flagg. Charles Augustine Flanagan. James Edward Flood, Jr. Donald Herbert Fogg. John R. Follett. Harrison William Fry. Arthur Duncan Gallup. Rodney J. Garish. Howard William Getchell. Lawrence M. Giles. Thomas R. Graffam. Robert P. Grant. Carl Owen Hackett. Willis Elwood Hendrickson. Edward R. Hopkins. Benjamin Howe, Jr. William H. Ivey. Carl Joseph Jansen. Richard Brooks Jones. Frederick Paul Keyser. Austin Rodney Keith. Arnold R. Kelly. John Coney Kelly. Donald Murray Kilpatrick, Jr. Joseph Herbert Kobritz. Harvey B. Lovett. Harry Lester MacDonald. Miles B. McDougall, Jr., Wallace Henry McLaughlin, James Stewart McKay, Donald Aldrich McKinnon, Guy Marsh, Jr., Shelley Doyle Montgomery, Charles W. Morrill, Frederick Coleman Murphy, Raymond Horace Noy, Von Reginald Olson, W. Carlton Orr, Fields Seeley Pendleton, III, Linwood W. Perkins, Carl F. Peterson, Jr., George Pomeroy, Arnold Perry Price, Eugene John Ranks, Edwin D. Rattray, Kenneth P. Reynolds, John Allen Richard, Lloyd Kenneth Robinson, Waldo E. Robinson, Jr., George Henry Rogers, Gerald Constantine Ryder, Glenn St. Germain, Joseph R. Sarnowski, Ralph A. Shearer, Harold Arthur Slager, Charles Edward Small, Edward G. Smith, James A. Snodgrass, Carl S. Sprague, Arthur F. Stimson, Garland Lewis Strang, Bernard Stryer, Gerald Decker Strout, Charles John Taylor, W. Stewart Truerty, Max E. Walls, George Ellis Watson, John A. Willett, Eugene Vincent Williams, Nelson Edwards Wilson, Aubrey Francis Withy, Renfrew A. Yerksa.